My name's Shadia and I'm 18 years old. I'm currently studying Bachelor's Speech Pathology. I take a big interest in autism specifically because I'm autistic myself, particularly in the realm of speech, looking at AACs and assistive technologies to help with communication. I'm also very interested in studying animal behaviour, particularly in the areas of animal-assisted therapy, and assistance dogs and therapy dogs and equine-assisted therapy. Catch. Catch. Oh, good boy. I was quite young at the time when I was diagnosed. I was about 3 years old. And they noticed that I was not really that interested in group work or socialising with the other children. I was very fascinated with sand, and I'd run sand through my fingers in the sand pit and get immersed in the sensory experience. And so they were sort of behaviours that they went, that's a bit different. I'd also, in terms of my play behaviour, I would line things up, which is a very common thing you hear about people on the autism spectrum, and for me that was a very self-soothing activity, and it really helped me develop, my communication and language skills, even though it wasn't evident at the time. And I would also be very good at jigsaw puzzles, so that was one of the things I was very good at. I was also echolalic, which meant that I mimicked other people, and that's how I actually learned how to speak. It was very upsetting for my mum, particularly because around that time there was very much a deficits-based view of autism. She went to this paediatrician, and she pretty much suggested that it could be a problem with the parent and not the child, and so she felt very much invalidated by her own experiences as well, and it made my path to diagnosis a bit harder. I then worked out my diagnosis when I was about 8 years old. So I remember I saw a poster that said autism, I think it said some signs, and I thought, oh, my friends kind of ticked that box because I went to a primary school with a lot of autistic individuals. And then I asked Mum about that, that my friend's autistic, and she replied truthfully. And then I connected the dots and went, oh, so am I autistic too? And Mum went, yep, that's it. At the time I didn't think much of it because it wasn't really relevant for me to think about. I was going to a school that had people like me, so I felt like I really belonged, and it wasn't really different. Autism was quite normal. And but then when I went to high school and I started getting bullied and picked on for being different, that's when at the age of 13 I started thinking about my diagnosis. And for me personally, it was very important having autistic adults who are mentors for me that help switch my mind from feeling abnormal and different and alone to, oh, this is a positive thing, and embracing a positive autistic identity. And I'm now helping other students. Oh, absolutely. Easy question. I definitely think it's important to see it as a strength. This is why I'm a big fan of the neurodiversity movement, which encourages people to see neurological differences such as autism as just that, differences, as opposed to something wrong. And I think there are definite positives to being autistic, particularly with me personally being able to understand animals, my creative abilities, my music abilities, my ability to understand other people who might be a bit different as well. And I think if those strengths were taken away, then I wouldn't be who I was. So there are, of course, issues and challenges related to being autistic, but I feel like for me, my strengths outweigh my disabilities. Well, my preference personally is identity first, and the reason for this is because autism makes up my brain wiring. It's impossible for me to separate my autism from me because it makes up who I am. I know that Temple Grandin says if she got rid of her autism, she'd get rid of herself, and I don't want that because it gives me all these amazing strengths, as I listed before. Separating the autism from us doesn't really describe autism in the way that a lot of us autistic individuals feel. By being proud of saying we're autistic, it can also empower us to feel proud of ourselves. In primary school, I was lucky to have sort of tailored support for autistic and neurodivergent students across a range of support needs. I think things like having interest groups at lunchtime really helped me. So instead of having to brave it in the playground with all the social nightmares that entails, I could at least hang out with like-minded people, play some games and talk about the games we were playing. We also had a lot of learning support officers, so throughout my primary school years I had some form of aid in the classroom. Some were better than others. Some that I found really good were the ones that knew when to step back. They knew my abilities and they encouraged my abilities, and they were able to step back and let me demonstrate that. But then they also provide support in areas that I obviously struggled with, so things like organisation. However, the things that didn't help were aides babying me, so doing all the work for me, or assuming that I couldn't do a task without asking me. And this didn't really encourage me to develop skills like asking for help or reaching out. And I think, feeling like an idiot isn't a nice feeling. In terms of high school, I went to one that was sort of catered for different thinkers, so it was very much self-directed. And with that came a lot of responsibility as well. So I learned a lot more of growth mindset and how to develop study habits and how to organise myself. And they also look beyond high school. So what is our career path? What are we doing now as young people to help speed our career paths? And they provided jobs within the school too to allow us that opportunity of practicing being employed or even being self-employed, which were really valuable skills. I really loved the real life skills. I had a lot of anxiety, which was a bit of a barrier in my learning. And this is very common with individuals on the autism spectrum to have anxiety, and it could be triggered by lots of things: upcoming deadlines, homework, sensory issues, a social issue at school, group tasks in particular. So I needed a lot of help to manage that. I only went to school part-time for this reason. I also struggled a lot with perfectionism, as I explained before, so things like growth mindset approaches really helped. I think another thing to look out for, especially in high school situations, is for high maskers. So they are autistic individuals who are able to easily conceal their possible anxieties or struggles. So they might look, I get the comment a lot out that I don't look autistic or that I'm low on the autism spectrum, but that's more to do with the fact that I quite easily mask my anxiety. I also find keeping still and focusing for long periods of time very challenging because I have auditory processing issues. So pretty much after about 10 minutes in the class I was struggling to listen, and pretty much what would happen is that I wouldn't be able to process anymore, because it's a bit like if you've got a computer that's lagging, it processes about 10 seconds of footage or whatever and then it just crashes. I think one of the best things about youth and support workers is that as autistic individuals we feel like we can approach someone that we trust, but in order for that trust to form we need a bond with you, and so I think the relationship building side of things is really important for us. I'd like to emphasise that every autistic person is different, so definitely try and understand the autistic individual as an individual. It can help us a lot with social skills. So one of the struggles I had was that I'd have a confusing social situation, but no one would tell me why it was confusing. We're not trying to be annoying, it's just that there's this thing that happened and we can't let go of the thing that happened. We also can't resolve it. We can't work out ourselves what had happened. If we get into situations where we're like, oh, every time I socialise I mess up, we can close ourselves off to socialising and then become very isolated. And we may appear aloof and not wanting to socialise, but a lot of us are very lonely and it's not true at all. Definitely things like if we have sensory issues, helping us learn how to self-regulate and use equipment like noise cancelling headphones and things like that is really important. Also things like safety and vulnerability is something I hear a lot. Often support workers can really help for outside of school even, learning about situations that might be vulnerable. A lot of us have a strong sense of justice, so if we see people acting up or doing the wrong thing, we may take it upon ourselves to point it out to them. Problem is not everyone enjoys being pointed out that they're doing the wrong thing. It comes into a whole difficulty with theory of mind and understanding other people's perspectives. I think that's where youth workers can be really wonderful.